Thank you very much. I was muted. Hi everyone. I'm gonna give everybody a little bit longer just to jump on. If you could just let me know in the question box that you can hear me, I'd appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. Um, so I do want to start off just by introducing myself. So my name is Andrew Bishop. I am an AmeriCorps Vista here at Mentor New York. Um, Probably all used to seeing Jack Kavanaugh, who is my supervisor. He is on vacation right now, hopefully getting a lot of well-deserved rest and relaxation. Um, I also want to just talk a little bit about Mentor New York. Mentor New York is an affiliate of a national organization called Mentor, the national um, geez, doing great today. Um, so uh, we're an affiliate of our national office, which is Mentor, the national partnership. Um, and a lot of what they do is research around the best practices of mentoring. And then kind of our job is to bring it to the programs that we serve in New York. So our mission is to uh, fuel the quality and quantity of the mentoring relationships for young people and close the mentoring gap in New York. And our vision is to create mentoring cultures and foster mentoring relationships wherever young people live, learn, work, and play. So we do that in a bunch of different ways. We partner with a lot of corporations and help them improve kind of their mentoring aspect, especially in like internships and things like that. Another thing that Jack and myself um, work on mainly is we work with programs through the National Mentoring Resource Center. We're able to offer no cost technical assistance. So we come in and we're able to kind of look at different aspects of mentoring programs and try to help advise and improve the mentoring programs that exist in New York State. I will mention that we do, through this no cost technical assistance, I'll be sending out the kind of walkthrough on how to apply for that. If your program is interested, we are at the mercy of like the federal fiscal year, so that is kind of coming to a close soon. So we'll be accepting applications, I believe, probably around mid this month, and then we'll probably be asking you to wait until the next fiscal year begins in October, just so we can make sure we give you as much time as you deserve. So I would, if you're interested, I'll be sending it out in the follow-up, and I would probably fill that out sooner rather than later. And if you're not sure, contact us. I'll be putting Jack and myself's email up at the end, so you'll be able to let us know what you're thinking. I would also like to announce that we have a Mentor of the Year event every year. Tomorrow is the deadline. If you are interested, if you can think of a mentor or program staff that deserves to be nominated, that you think has done an exceptional job this year. If you're interested in that, again, I'll put my contact information up and you can let me know if that's something you would like to apply for. Tomorrow is, again, the final day to do that. So if you are interested, that one you have to fill out quickly. And then I'm going to start today with a poll. So it'll pop up on your screen in just a moment. Okay, so how are you feeling today? Never been better, a little stressed, but excited to be here. been better, been worse, or please get me out of this house. All right, let me pull up the results. All right, it looks like never been better, a little stressed, but excited to be here. So the only two. I'm glad to see nobody is asking, please get me out of this house. That during the beginning of the physical distancing for COVID-19, that was, I think, one of the higher ones. So it looks like people are able to get out a little bit. And then, so here we have our agenda. So we're going to start off talking about why training mentors is important, identifying what population you're serving and the model that you're using, defining your specific audience, using training to spot red flags, administrative versus programmatic training, pre-match versus post-match training, benchmarks and enhancements for our research from our research-based elements of effective practice, and then we'll be ending with a question and answer. I will let you all know Jack Kavanaugh, my supervisor, has 15 years of experience behind his belt. I have less than that, so I will try to answer all of your questions to the best of my ability. But if I cannot answer them, I'll let you know, and we'll try to get you that answer when Jack comes back on Monday. All right, so we're just going to talk about kind of where a lot of our work is rooted in, which is the elements of effective practice. This comes from our national affiliate, and it can be found on their website, which is mentoring.org. It's a tool that we use to look at how mentoring programs can align with the best practices. So what they've done is they looked at mentoring programs all across the country, and they've compiled lists of what the best practices and what enhancements could possibly be for programs. And it's split into 6 elements. So there's recruitment, screening, training, matching and initiating, monitoring and support, and closure. And so today we're talking about training. We have previously recorded webinars on all 6 of these, and we continue to do webinars on these topics. And I'll be sending all of that out in a follow-up email, so you will be able to access those. All right, and then we have another quick poll today. Pull this out. Just so I get a better idea, what does your current training for mentors look like at your program? So this, you can select multiple choices. So we do a small training pre-match. We do a 2 to 6 hour training pre-match. We do a 6-hour training pre-match. We do a mentee training, and we provide additional training for mentors during their match. Again, just select whichever ones apply to your program. Give you guys a few seconds to fill that out. All right. Okay, so it looks like majority of you do a small training pre-match, and you also do additional trainings for mentors during the match, which both are definitely very important, so I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so we'll start off by talking about why we do training. So having a well-trained staff is one of the most important pieces of building quality relationships, especially for those who don't have a strong background working with kids. If this is their first time, it's it's definitely difficult to have realistic expectations without kind of having that training to lay it out. So mentors are adequately trained, are mentors that are adequately trained are more likely to stay involved and in the program, and your program will have a higher retention rate of mentors. So just being realistic right off the bat. I know when we talk about recruitment, we also say this. We don't want them to have an idea of what's going to happen when they walk into a room with a mentee that's not realistic. Mentors can get frustrated if they come in on their second meeting with their mentee and they're not already showing a different behavior or something, or already showing improvement from their mentoring relationship. And I would assume we all know that that's not really how it works. But sometimes a mentee, without the proper training and the proper perspective, they don't see that, and then that will cause them to give up or have issues with their mentoring relationship. It's easier to feel more supported if you know what you're getting yourself into. We talk about being honest with mentors during the recruitment stage. This can be seen as a extension of that. So just establishing that trust right off the bat, where they know who to go to and they know what to expect, can have like a world of difference when it comes to the actual mentoring relationship, and just having them prepared and confident when they first meet their mentee is very important. So now we're going to talk about defining your audience. So before you plan or when you're looking at your training program, it's really important to look at who your audience or who's coming to the table. So questions that you should be making sure that you're asking yourself are, who are your mentees? What are their demographics? Is your program focused with youth that are interested in something like STEM research, or are you serving LGBT youth? Maybe your program is sports-based. Really understanding the specific challenges or barriers of the youth that you're dealing with is important to know before you are choosing what your training is going to be about, because that's something that you're going to want to incorporate into it. Every community and program are different, so a program in the west side of Buffalo is going to have a different set of challenges and experiences that come to them than, let's say, in Brooklyn or Long Island. So it's important to understand where your community is and what are the challenges of people that you're serving. And then, so when you ask that about your mentees, you should also be asking that about your mentors. So who are your mentors that you're getting? Are they generally older? What experiences in their life might they have had? Do they have a background working with youth? Do they experience have they experienced a mentoring relationship before? Maybe they were the mentee early in their life. What are their motivations for being a mentor? What are their interests or hobbies? Seeing what both sides bring to this table helps you inform what you're going to need to train them on. I apologize. Somebody just pointed out. Yeah, so we'll go back to here. So it's what can training do? I'll be sending these slides after. I apologize, I forgot to turn that poll off. And then this was defining your audience. And then spotting red flags in your training. That's our next topic. So training can be looked at as an extension of your screening process. So screening is probably one of the most important aspects before the relationship. and it doesn't just end after your screening procedure ends. Um, it's good to look at how mentors function in a group setting. So this is perfect opportunity for that, and just getting a sense of who they are in general. Um, if you have a mentor that's focused on themselves and is constantly saying things like this is what I need to get out of this, or this is what I want from the program, it's really important to see that and to try to redirect the focus onto the mentee's experience. Um, and then things like red flags that will pop up um, are like over involved with the children and under involved with the adults. That could be a sign that turns into poor boundaries. Developmentally inappropriate behavior is also another sign of poor boundaries. Excessive physical contact with others. Uh, you want to focus on what you want to ensure mentors have in place to be successful. We talk about this in screening as well. We do have that webinar recorded, so I'll be sending that you can look for it. And it's not just about safety, it's about suitability as well. You should be confident that the mentors that you're matching with mentees are a good fit for your specific program. Um, Mentors that are willing to learn and engage in the training process are the mentors that you want. They should be approachable and supportive. When you're doing your training process, they shouldn't be the ones sitting in the back of the room, not saying anything because they think that they know it already, because that's not going to be helpful when the time comes that they're matched. And then final poll we have today, I'll remember to take it down after we finish it. So what topics do you train your mentors on currently? So again, you can select as many that apply to your program. So program policies and procedures, trauma and youth, safety and boundaries, youth development, or cultural humility. It's also important to note that while these are all important, a lot of programs are pressed for time, and so not everything can be touched on, or to the extent that you might want to. Give you a couple more seconds. All right, so program policies and procedures and safety and boundaries, top two. Those are definitely the top two important ones that we always say. So that's good to see. So now we're going to talk about two distinct categories that's really helpful to think about when you're thinking about your training. So the first category we're going to talk about is the administrative. So this is what you want to make sure that mentors are confident and comfortable with the process and what that process looks like. So how frequent are the meetings between them and the mentee? What are the policies and procedures of your program? Uh, who do you call when you suspect that there is abuse? Who do you call when there's just nothing's clicking and you're not doing well with your mentee? What paperwork is involved? What notes should they be taking? Should they be taking notes during, before, or after? What is the communication protocol? Who do they call if they can't make it? Uh, and then on top of that, how are they able to communicate with their mentee? So do they give them their phone number? Are they able to text and call each other? Do you have a specific video calling program that you use for your program right now? Can they add their mentee on social media? It's really, this is administrative side is important to roll out all the boundaries. Finding out, or when do they find out about their match? The more we can get acclimated and comfortable, the better that they will be when the time comes that they're sitting in front of their mentee. Thinking about the beginning of this webinar, I had laid out all the topics that we were going to go over. That's exactly kind of the thing that we want to make sure we hit on in the administrative side. The more comfortable and understanding of everything on the administrative side, the more safety and trust they feel towards the program, and the more comfortable they will be when walking in to meet their mentee. And then on the other side is the programmatic. So a good example, a way to think about this is that think of it like a board game. So the administrative side of Monopoly is just the rules. So knowing how much money that you get at the beginning of the game, what happens when you roll snake eyes, things like that. That's the administrative side. But then the programmatic side would be how do you enjoy the game? How do you play to win? What are the strategies involved? So this is the side of how do they engage? So engagement skills. We get caught up often in the high level things like youth development and cultural humility, but we have to understand that at some point there's going to be a mentee and a mentor sitting in front of each other. So it's really important that we kind of teach them how to start a conversation there. And we want to make sure that they're comfortable. So things like active listening, what does that look like? A lot of the time it's hard for adults to practice active listening with young people. And so really focusing in on that, making sure they understand how to practice active listening is going to be really important when the time comes. And then stages of development. What age group are you working with as your mentees? A mentor with little youth experience might not know what behaviors are normal and what behaviors aren't. An easy example of this would be if the mentee is a teenager and they sit down with their mentor for the first time and the mentee is being rude and dismissive, that could be seen as just a behavior of their age and something that will go away, and it's not something that the mentor is specifically triggering, it's just the age group. And so being able to portray that to the mentor and make them understand that it's not always just them, it could be something developmental, is important. Then cultural competency. We want to make sure that mentors serve minority, especially youth, and they're equipped to do so. So we want to make sure that we have these conversations with them. The biggest issue that we see comes up is that it's like the same issue with active listening. Adults, especially in a mentoring position, they often lack the ability to be vulnerable with their youth. They want to come in as the expert. They want to be able to have some understanding prior to the relationship. And in situations like this, it's more useful to approach it by asking the mentee what that experience is like. It's okay for the mentors to be the vulnerable party in situations. And that's something that is not always second nature to mentors. And then trauma is particularly important. It's important for adults in a youth's life to understand what the impacts of trauma looks like, understanding how trauma operates. You don't have to be an expert, but a basic conversation about trauma and how it impacts people at a much higher rate than you would assume, and teaching them how to be aware and have some basic skills and strategies, like telling them what to expect, will make a huge difference. We also have a webinar focused on trauma in the mentoring relationship that will also be on the follow-up email that I send out. Great. And then working with families. So what are the boundaries that mentors and the mentee's family supposed to have? What should conversations look like with the mentee's family, and how often are these supposed to happen? It's just as important as equipping them for the mentee relationship as it is with the mentee's family. And then you should also be informing the mentors on the demographics they'll be working with. So what is the most common issue that the population for mentees, what is the most common issue that mentees have in your program? What issues do mentees face most often? What can you put in place to best meet the needs of the mentees? What can you teach the mentors that will be most helpful to work with the common issues that the mentees experience? And this could look like your mentees commonly experience traumas, then you should be focusing that on your training. Same with if a lot of your mentees do not have really good senses of boundaries, you need to train your mentors on how to have strong boundaries. Right, and then the pre-match training is the most important of the trainings. The primary goal is to increase their readiness and give them a sense of self-efficacy to be a mentor. So we want mentors to feel ready to go into a mentoring relationship and understand that they can make a difference and that what they're doing is important, even though right then and there they don't always get the gratification that they might be expecting. So they should be trained in safety, ethics, and risk management policies of your specific program. What are the specific rules that your program that you feel should be underlined? And like I said before, how are they communicating? That's always a big one. Or something like, can a mentee get into a car with a mentor? Remove as much space for doubt or questioning as possible so that problem doesn't arise. And of course, this is all individualized to your program. So your program may have more rules and regulations than others. So you have to make sure you portray that properly to your mentor. And self-efficacy is very important to a mentor. So they should know that they might not see a difference right away, or they might not see it at all during the mentor relationship. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. And that's something really important because often we see that mentors drop off because they don't see what they're expecting to see, and it wasn't really portrayed enough to them that what expectations that they should be having. All right, and then so for post-match training, this is really helpful. So you want to provide support and training during the match just as much as before the match. This is especially helpful because they now have some experience. So the pre-match training is kind of more academic or abstract. But after meeting the mentees for a little bit, it's easier to kind of have those conversations. And it might even be useful to treat these trainings more as like roundtables or discussions, or even like a peer support style. And they can also be more individualized. So you can start looking during your screenings or your support when you're talking with one-on-one with your mentors. You should listen in on what are the common problems they're having, and then maybe that is something that you need to have a training on. And also like just reacting to what's going on in the community. Just for example, when COVID-19 started and the physical distancing began, we had to shift over to e-mentoring most programs. So having that training on what that's going to look like, what is expected, what are the new policies that come with it, and how to just do e-mentoring. Those are really important to follow up with the mentor because might not be something that you had originally trained them on. And then monitoring and support is one of our other of the 6 elements of effective practice. So I think it's important to point out that this post-match training does not replace like a one-on-one. experience that you have with your mentors, but it is a good supplement. But it's still very important to have that one-on-one where you can continue to evaluate how the mentoring relationship is going. So we've talked a lot about mentor trainings, and now we're going to talk a little bit about mentee trainings. This is also important to prepare the mentees for the relationship they are about to enter into. They should be just as equipped preparing they should be just as equipped and prepared as the mentors are going to be. The reasoning for this is that this will set realistic expectations for them. They'll understand what is expected of the mentor and what is expected of them. You should really be asking the question, are they ready to receive the type of mentoring that you want them to receive? You should make sure that they are comfortable and understand the mentoring process. So they should really be learning the same protocol as the mentors, like when and where is this meetup going to happen? How often is it going to happen? What happens if the mentee can't make it? Who do they go to if there are any issues within the mentoring relationship? Giving them this information helps them feel empowered and a part of the process, which is very important because often there is a deficit perspective in the mentoring relationship where there is something that the mentee needs that the mentor is expected to give to them. The more research on what effective mentoring programs look like, the more we understand that mentoring programs that empower and give a voice, give the youth a voice in the process and not just passive recipients of knowledge are much more successful. So kind of giving them a hand in what's going on really ends up empowering them. We underestimate our young people often, and they're really able to rise to challenges. And I think that's something that we need to think about when we're doing a mentee training. And then, so this is directly from the elements of effective practice. So this is the benchmarks. So for every of the 6 elements, there is a list of benchmarks and a list of enhancements. So the benchmarks are things that they can be treated as like guidelines on what a good mentoring program looks like. And that's not to say that all mentoring programs fit in this particular box, but it is good practice to try to align yourself with a lot of these benchmarks. So here we have, there should be uh, there are checklists for each element, benchmarks and enhancements. Okay, so the program provides mentors with a minimum of 2 hours of in-person pre-match training. So that should really be kind of the basic level of training that you provide. Of course, there's more or less. And then the mentor training should include the listed topics at a minimum. There are a lot here. I'm not going to go through all of them. The program provides a pre-match training for the mentor on risk management policies that are matched to the program model setting and population served. And the program uses training practices and materials that are informed by empirical research or are themselves empirically evaluated. And then these are the enhancements. So if you check off all the boxes for the benchmarks, it's always good to go a step further. You know, no program is ever going to be perfect, and there's always a way to improve. So each of the 6 elements has enhancements as well. So the program provides additional pre-match trainings opportunities beyond the 2-hour in-person minimum for a total of 6 hours or more. Program addresses post-match training topics. Program uses training to continue to screen mentors for suitability to be a mentor and develop techniques for early troubleshooting should problems be identified. And program provides training for the mentees. Program provides training for the mentee on the risk management policies that are matched to the program model, settings, and population served. Program provides trainings for the parents or guardians when appropriate. Program provides training for the parents or guardians on risk management policies that are matched to the program model, setting, and population served. And again, on mentoring.org, you can find the elements of effective practice, or you can even search it in Google and it'll just pop up. And it's a very long read, but it kind of has the justification for everything, and all 6 of the elements and the benchmarks and enhancements that come along with them. And then a couple additional services. So the National Mentoring Research Center has also a lot of research around best practices of mentoring. Their site is right there. Again, you'll be getting the slides in the follow-up email. The mentoring connector, that's something that we use. We programs that are interested in being on our mentoring connector site, we vet them fully and make sure they're up to standards that we have. And then they'll be on a map where anybody can go in and look for a mentoring program, whether they want to be a mentee or a mentor. And then the National Quality Mentoring System, that's where we provide no-cost technical assistance to programs. I'll be sending out a form on how to do that. And then we also have a bunch of additional webinars. I'll be sending a link to that as well. There are tons of them. We also do panels. I'll send a link to our wellness panel series, and those are really helpful. We bring on a lot of experts in various fields related to mentoring, and we have conversations and we bring in questions that you guys ask. So they're definitely informative. And then if there's any questions you have right now, I'll be happy to answer them. And while you're doing that, I'll ask that if you have a smartphone, if you could hold the camera up to the screen, to that code, it'll take you right to our SurveyMonkey survey. If you could fill that out, be much appreciated. I'll also be sending a link to that. So if this doesn't work, it's totally fine. You'll get the link in the follow-up email. Again, if you have any questions, you can type them into the question box on your screen. Okay, so somebody asked a question about programs or apps to run a virtual training program. So yeah, we have been trying to look around for them. The most common ones would be Zoom, Google Classroom, especially if you're affiliated with a school, because they get the membership to that. It is, I believe, paid if you don't have that membership or any way of getting it. There's also programs, and it really depends a lot on the policies you have in place. But there's one called Jitsi. It's JIT.SI. It kind of works a lot like Zoom, but it's browser based, so you don't have to download anything for that one, and you create your own link. So that one I really like to use for pretty much any meeting, because it's free, unlimited time, or I think it's up to like 75 people can be on it. But we do. I'll send a link to of the resource. But we have a Google Doc of different activities and programs that we have looked through and suggest that would be helpful for mentoring mentoring activities. Somebody asked about the polls. This is actually called GoToWebinar. This is a paid program that we use, so the polling comes from that. There are a couple programs that you can do polls through. I don't remember all the names that we've kind of looked at, but one is called Kahoot. It's KAHOOT.com. That one, it's you make your own quizzes or polls, and anybody with like a phone or a browser on their computer, they type in the website and then they type in a code, and then they're able to answer questions that come up on whoever is giving out the poll screen. And the free version, I believe, up to 10 people can play that one. But I do believe we have other kind of poll programs that we have in that Google Doc that I'll be sending you guys in the follow-up email. And then here is my contact information, as well as Jack Kavanaugh, my supervisor. He'll be back on Monday. And so feel free. We always want to be here if you have any questions. And Jack definitely has a lot more experience with all of this than I do. So if I can't answer it, I'll always pull Jack in and try to help you guys out. And I would just like to thank you all for coming to today's webinar. And tomorrow you can expect to find the follow-up email with the slides and the recording that I'll be sending out. All right, thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.